even though there is, initial surge and then drop, but overall, year over year, the occupancy is increasing. We do this report on a quarterly basis. Our report includes data from 143 offices globally, from various industries, actually, including professional services, investment management, healthcare, tech, IT, and etc. When we look at Q1 2025 and we look at the peak occupancy rate globally, and what we're looking at is really continents to some extent, right? APAC, EMEA, North America, huge. So these are averages across these huge regions. APAC is leading, if you want to call it the RTO raise, at 49%, followed by Latin America at 43%, EMEA is at 38%. Lastly, we have North America as at 30%. This is quite different from the trends that we see, coming out of the pandemic, where we saw North America and EMEA region sort of leading, back to office trend. But now we see that, with more and more stricter RTO mandates across many organizations globally, we do see that these RTOs are more effective in APAC and Latin America. We do see that people are coming in more of 4 days per week and 5 days per week with the new RTO mandates the last quarter. We are also seeing people staying in the office for shorter duration, right? Contrary to the expectation of staying in the office for 8 hours per day. I think it's established now that's like pre-COVID norm, not post-COVID norm. With 4 or 5 days per week RTO mandates, we are also seeing flattening of midweek peaks. I'm very excited about the next one, how RTO has evolved since after the pandemic. And what we're looking at over here is sort of global average in terms of occupancy rate. 2022 to 2025. If you remember, we started to see Omicron variant of COVID late 2021. It sort of continued to some extent in 2022, but the conversation of coming back to the office started during that time. You do see certain surges in terms of occupancy rate, especially Q1 and Q4. But it didn't really last very long. Starting 2023, there was, a lot of companies announcing their RTO mandates, more like 2 to 3 days per week, not very strict, more like, mild, softer version of RTO mandates, right? And you saw a surge in occupancy rate starting Q1. It didn't last really. The momentum that we saw in Q1 2023 dropped very quickly following quarters, Q2 to Q4. In 2024, we saw more stricter versions of 2 to 3 days per week mandates starting Q2. And then it sort of dropped. And then Q3, Q4, we saw the initial momentum was lost. And then you must have heard a lot of companies, announcing 5 days per week, 4 days per week mandates in the last quarter. And then we saw a huge surge Q1 2025. Now, the question remains, will this turn into a lasting behavior, or are we going to see continued behavior of, the initial surge sort of losing out in the next quarters, even though there is, initial surge and then drop, but overall, year over year, the occupancy is increasing. It does seem to increase. It's just that the RTO momentum is not lasting as compared to the expectations.